through the chat. Feel free to turn on your webcam as well. We're going to kick off in, I think, just a moment. Okay, Richard, you can let us know.
We've started recording. Go ahead and start whenever you'd like.
Perfect. So again, to everyone who's joined us today, thank you very much for making the time. And, you know, this is a topic that we're quite fortunate that we're going to be discussing. I think related to the times we're currently living in. We're going to go over the 5 best practices for improving the adoption of remote learning. So with regards to who you're actually going to be listening to today, my name is Lee Berkman. I am an account executive at CloudShare. We'll do a brief introduction of exactly like who we are, but my background comes from dealing with high-tech organizations, being able to provide remote and IT-focused solutions for businesses around the world. And in this current situation, with regards to what we do as a company, we're able to provide a hands-on learning experience for users on any IT infrastructure. So we've been able to engage with companies around the world with regards to their training needs. And we've seen changes you know, in the recent years, but specifically during the time we're living in, significant changes in companies trying to adapt to that quite rapidly. And who I'm going to be presenting with today, Viggy Book from Tufin, is the training director at Tufin, and how Viggy's going to be sharing with us how he's actually introduced a effective training program into Tufin that never existed before, taking advantage of a number of different technologies and processes that he's introduced to make sure that this training has become self-sufficient, effective, and well received and adopted. Viggy, is that a fair introduction?
I could not have said it better myself.
I'm very happy to hear that, and you're always going to compliment me, which I need all the time, so thank you. Perfect. So in our agenda, we have a number of different topics that we're going to address. And what we're going to go over is how training is, well, we've already discussed a little bit, but we'll dive into who we are at CloudShare. We want to get a little bit of feedback with regards to who we're speaking to, so I'm going to open up the floor to get some feedback from everyone participating. Please do jump in and answer. It's an interactive poll question. We're going to go into our 5 best practices or suggested practices, how to improve and have effective remote training. We're going to hand over to Viggy about a little bit about Tufin, what his objectives were and goals with the training programs, and actually get to see the platforms that Viggy is actually. We'll have Q&A as well. And after this session that we have allocated 40 minutes for, we will also have what is called a poster session, where we can have a more open, a relaxed discussion regarding any questions you may have from the presentation today, any questions with regards to CloudShare. We're also able to show a demonstration of what CloudShare does. So please do join us in a separate session afterwards. We'll make sure you have all the guidance to get there. So, as it may be an obvious topic to you, we are currently in unique times, and training in general is changing significantly. Beforehand, where we had the advantage of doing face-to-face learning and having someone being able to actually lead that experience for the individual learners with a charismatic showman, today we have individuals stuck at home alone and basically being expected to have the same effective training that they may have had, where more traditional methods are comfortable, well-known, and proven. So how are we going to be able to sort of address this, make it more engaging, to make sure that users at home are still going to get the most out of it? We're not going to dive too much into this, but in a nutshell, CloudShare is providing hands-on learning experience to be able to deliver training solutions to any user around the world, simply with a web browser. And instead of me diving into that further, Viggy will touch on how he today is taking advantage of virtual labs as well. And again, any questions you have with regards to CloudShare, training academies, and anything as well, please drop it in the chat. Please don't hesitate to bring it to the Q&A session as well. and we'll make sure to try to answer as much as possible. So before we, and we want to just get a little bit more engaged with regards to you at the moment, with you joining us today. So if you're able to please go ahead and jump onto the polling platform, we'll be able to get a little bit of a better idea of who we're actually speaking with today. So I'm going to go ahead and also drop in the link to this conferencing, to this platform, to be able to discuss a bit more about what we're doing, where you can give us some insight. But also feel free to use the QR code to actually scan in the questions, and we'll be able to get some better ideas of exactly. My apologies for not getting that code up quick enough in the chat. Perfect. And do let us know if anyone's having an issue accessing that. So to those who have already jumped on. So the first thing we want to know is, who are you in your organization? And quite clearly, we're meeting with a lot of training managers. So I'm assuming you're quite interested with regards to how you can then again make sure that you're engaging with your students, but also making sure that you're going to be able to assist all of your actual instructors. We're always hoping to see more instructors on the call, but with regards to you being effective in your training, it's essential to make sure that you're using the right tools. So I'll be bringing what insights we've gained from our customers throughout the year, and Viggy's going to actually be able to showcase and discuss his experience and what he's actually done to develop. So cut and dry, we have a majority of training managers, but still happy to see a nice combination of other users as well. If you go to the next question, we are interested as well with regards to hands-on learning. How important do you see virtual labs being for a training organization? And I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see majority of people finding it essential, finding it important, because where we're finding training is so important and valuable, I don't want to touch on all of the presentation points we're going to have, but the more hands-on time you can get with a solution before having to introduce it into your actual production or day-to-day work life, you're always going to get the best retention for your learning experience. I think majority of the people on the call agree with that idea. And lastly, we'll also be happy to share this information once everyone submitted their questions as well. And I want to just be sensitive of time and not spend too much time on this. But also, there's a third question. Are you currently leveraging virtual IT labs today? If you are, how are you currently leveraging them? Are you running in person? Perfect. So hoping to get some, and this makes a lot of sense to us, hybrid being in person, which I'm sure was way more popular before, I think, February or March 2020. Things have significantly changed, I believe. And we've definitely seen an increase with regards to virtual instructor-led training, self-paced training, but where everyone can be purely remote because of the limitations of in person. But still nice to see such a nice proportion of people that are familiar with the hybrid approach of training delivery. So thanks everyone for participating in that and giving us a better idea of who is all on the call. So giving some of the things that we've learned throughout the year through a number of research partners and obviously just experience from our customers, make sure that you're getting enough of your users' attention. It's been shown through a number, and we have the resource there at the bottom. You have 7 minutes to keep your users' attention before losing them in a training session. And we're seeing a number of challenges come through, namely those that we refer to as Zoom fatigue. Even today, for those that are going to be sticking through a number of sessions, it's nothing short of a chore, being able to be online, be attentive, absorb what's being shared with you. So you need to basically, what we're suggesting is combining instructor-led training with self-paced training. So with that first slide where we were saying that in traditional training, you have that charismatic leader and instructor, being able to actually kick off a training session and basically build some sort of guidance collaboration with a larger class, and then letting students go off onto their own. And this can then be further left along, further empowered with sort of general check-ins with your students. So if it's a 5-day training, you don't necessarily need instructor-led training throughout. Mix and match. Do that sort of hybrid approach that I think some members on the call already are familiar with. Taking advantage of all of the technologies you have at your disposal. And this can come from any type of analytics you may already have, information you're tracking and keeping from your actual students, participants, and basically anyone requested your solutions. But the platforms that you choose, it's essential that you're getting the right tools to be able to have automated suggestions and prompting a user along the right path using AI. So if someone is stuck on a specific course or module in a training, perhaps an AI tool that is baked into this training module of yours can actually suggest a different module or provide some guidance to be able to complete that in their own self-paced effort. And then analytics, you want to make sure you have as much insight as possible to be able to better improve on your training delivery and make sure that you're getting the most information across to whoever your audience is. There's a lot more, and it's a really loaded, interested topic, but we need to try cover a lot in the small session we have. So please do, again, bring any type of relevant questions over. You want to make sure, because we're talking about, again, remote training, and the feeling of users being isolated is a huge issue. So what is essential here? And the information the resource information that's over here is massive. The fact that businesses with ineffective training can lose up to $13.5 million a year based on per 1,000 employees. It's not always going to be relevant for smaller organizations, not always going to be relevant for that type of larger audiences as well. But the point is, ineffective training is a loss of revenue potential. And you want to make sure that everything that you're investing into your training is going to be as effective as possible. And you don't want to, it's a similar theme throughout all of these best practices, but it's always sort of a unique aspect on addressing, I think, the core goal of being as effective as possible with remote learning. And with regards to remote support and proactive touch points, this is directly focused on self-paced training again, where Viggy has some, I think he set up an exceptional portal to be able to sort of not overwhelm users. And anytime that someone is running into an issue, limited with regards to what they may be able to achieve, there's always somewhere they can go for additional help and make sure that people are checking in with them. So combining, again, that instructor-led training, remote-based training, but always having an available support for them. Hands-on learning is something that we cannot speak enough about from CloudShare. It's really the whole value proposition that we have, and practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. Providing theoretical training and well-prepared slideshows, recorded videos is obviously essential and really valuable, but there's always a limitation with regards to what can actually be taught when it comes to having to learn a new IT solution or platform. Until someone is actually hands-on, submitting a task, getting an error page, running into issues, you're never going to really do that until you're actually in an application. Virtual IT labs allows you to replicate a real-world scenario, complex or simple, without having to water down the actual application or experience. So in a safe training sandbox, users can basically, to their heart's content, take advantage of a solution. And another very popular aspect with regards to ensuring user engagement in remote training and making sure that users are still going to stay engaged throughout the training experience and throughout the process of their learning, gamification, and basically setting up tasks, competition between members. If you're trying to employ, we're talking about training potentially customers, we're talking about training partners, we're talking about training employees. As soon as there is any type of incentive or competition, you're immediately going to see jump in users trying to complete their tasks. Viggy, you still mentioned to me the other day that you saw it in your organization where you introduced a little bit of competition and gamification to your sales team to complete training tasks. I'd love if you could just like use that story and use case before I actually hand the baton over to you, where you can discuss a little bit more about what you've done in more detail as well.
Hi, okay, so I work for Tufin, and apart from the thousands of customers and partners that we have, we also have quite a large sales organization internally. And until recently, we hadn't really kind of focused on their usage so much. It was more like, you know, sales reps need something, we give it to them, and it was really very kind of, you know, a passive, we say, routine between training and the sales organization. And we're kind of like thinking about ways, how do we get the sales reps, how do we get our sales organization more involved? And within the training, I mean, they request the training, they have issues, you know, across the sales cycle, you know, from opening to negotiation, and they are taking the courses, but you know, we did see that there was, you know, a very low kind of like rate of completion of the whole module. So we use a learning management system made by Docebo, okay, and it's an Italian company. Also have an office in Atlanta, Georgia, and also in Toronto, Canada. And so they have a gamification module. So it's built into the system, it's out of the box. And we thought, let's gamify this. Let's just offer them a slight incentive. You know, the first person to finish a module, the first person to complete X amount of modules. Let's have a competition, East versus West, for example, in the States. And within a week, wow, all of a sudden, as soon as there's a little bit of competition between salespeople, there was a massive, massive pickup, more than we could possibly have imagined, actually. And also people were completing the training, they were meeting their goals and meeting their targets. And also, of course, because they were completing the training, as sales reps, they were also like increasing, you know, their revenues and etc. So gamification really was a game changer, not to put a pun on it too much, but it really helped. And so now we're also going to advance this a lot with our partners as well, because with our partner program, we have you know, various levels of partners, and I think the gamification, well, I think I kind of almost already know that gamification will be a huge incentive for our partners also, not just to compete with each other, just to become better at what they do.
So Viggy, with that, a little bit about, we already know who you are. We already know, and perhaps you just want to dive a little bit into your responsibility, and I can also show your customer list as well to sort of show off a little bit.
Sure. I will just say a slight housekeeping thing there. I had my Slack open. Okay, I closed, and then no more people disturbing. Okay, so security is known as, Tufin is known as a security policy company. Okay, so we provide a solution which basically manages multiple hybrid on-premise, private, cloud, firewall devices across like very complex networks. And as you can see, over half our customers are Fortune 50, which means they're enterprise customers. In fact, the focus really is on huge corporations who have multiple firewalls across multiple vendors, and over the years have become extremely complex, have policies which contain up to 500,000 rules, etc. So Tufin provides a solution which not just visualizes and provides a single pane of glass to see all these policies, but also to automate change, etc. So that's what Tufin does. I'm the training director. I don't sell it, but I think I sold it pretty well then. And so it's a big corporation, like the corporation you're seeing on the screen right now, over 2,000 customers worldwide. So as you can probably see, most of these customers, and for every single one you see on the screen, this is like a standard customer that we have. We'll have like hundreds, if not thousands, of firewalls or security devices protecting them from being any type of security breach. So Tufin will provide a picture of all of the whole network of devices, and also enable the user of Tufin to make changes across multiple firewalls. That's the biggest selling point of it, is automation of changes. So you could have a Checkpoint, a Cisco, Amazon, you're going way too quickly, and etc. You know, across you know, many different devices, and so Tufin will be able to like provide you with the credentials needed to make the change, and also compare it against any compliance you might have. So obviously a lot of customers are in finance, so any PCI, etc. Compliance issues, we also will compare and make sure that you are being compliant and you fulfill your compliance with your necessary vendor. So that's Tufin in a nutshell. I don't think I've ever said it so quickly, but you can, let's go to the next slide now. As director of training, so I'll give you a very like 10-second background. 4 years ago, 0 training. Okay, and since, as you just saw from the 2 slides ago, we've now on the NASDAQ, and the company has been extremely successful. So from 0 training, literally there's a couple of PowerPoints floating around Tufin. They hired me, and we now have a full online training with 400 courses, thousands, as I mentioned, of customers and partners, and of course we have the internal training as well. And the idea was at the beginning, free, just give it to them. No, don't charge anything. Let's just try to attract, you know, as much traction as possible and as much attention as possible. And so that's to support the growth. And yes, it was just me, and now there's 4 people in the department, and we're growing, which is also quite an achievement in these times that we're living in right now. And so it's a note at the bottom. I forgot about that. The last bullet there. When I joined Tufin, legit, there was no such thing as training. They basically took a big box around the world with them, and it was shipped from place to place, and they hoped that people would show up to the training. They did a public training, and so they ended up in Amsterdam. The box arrived, the trainer arrived, and they were like, okay, this is when the training is. It's going to be on the middle of August, whenever it might have been, 2015, and please come. And so if they were lucky, they got a hit, and like a few, you know, they filled up the class with 15, 20 people. And sometimes they weren't as lucky, and you know, they ended up with very few people, because you know, there was no online training, there was no online labs. They were doing everything like hardwired and physical, and obviously this was not scalable in any way whatsoever. And so Tufin realized this. They started headhunting, and yeah, so they picked me from my previous work. And now we can go to the next slide. Let's move forward a little bit.
Got it.
And okay, we're skipping a lot here, but this is today. So as I mentioned before, we use the Docebo LMS system. I don't know if those are familiar. It's one of the main LMS systems in the world. I won't speak about it too much, but you know, their support and their APIs is what people really would use this system for. And this is exactly how CloudShare came in as well, because they do offer a huge variety of APIs and flexibility, and able to basically customize their solution however you want. And you know, they have huge multinational customers as well. We're actually one of their smaller customers, but it's a great LMS in terms of customizing and enabling it to kind of, you know, fulfill your business needs. Okay, so I don't know. I see the chat on the side here. Should I just ignore that chat for now, Lee? There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, some people are busy sharing with regards to some of the platforms and tools that they are taking advantage of today. So Sam, Linda, Noel, thanks for sharing that information, and I think we can touch on a couple of them when we get to the Q&A. I don't want to sidetrack you too much at the moment, Biggie, because I do want you to show off with regards to what you've developed.
Okay, I will go on to that, and I might actually stay for the after session, but I'll be interested in how you answer Sam's question about Strigo as well afterwards. But I will concentrate on CloudShare, of course, because what we did. So I arrived at Tufin, and I mentioned there was nothing. However, just because basically I was new in the company, and I was speaking to people, and so someone mentioned another vendor which is actually no longer in production anymore, and these guys do online labs, and you could use these people. I'm like, well, I don't even have an LMS system yet. So first of all, we got Toshiba on board. It's super quick. Within a week or two, we've had a few courses up online. And it's a very like drag and drop system, just uploading content and whatever it might be, whether it's like SCORM or Tin Can or just PowerPoints, whatever, or videos like you see on the screen here. It's a super easy system. We don't even need an admin to do it. We actually have like about 30 power users, which is kind of like a semi-admin within the company who basically control the system themselves. And so we got the training built up pretty quickly. And then someone introduced me to this other company. Doesn't really matter if I mention them because they don't exist anymore. But they've got to do online labs. I'm like, cool, sweet. Let's get some like hands-on training in, because there's nothing like hands-on training. It is by far the ultimate tool for technical courses that we have. And it's not just technical courses. Any type of training. You don't have to be a technician. You could be a sales rep and just want to see what the software does, how to use the software, what does this button do, okay? And when you're in a lab, obviously you have like complete freedom. You can break it, and guess what? It can be reset, and you can launch it within seconds. There's no matter how an online lab. So we use this other company, and I thought it was pretty decent. We had like a web link. It went, it created a lab. It took like a few minutes to load. And everyone seemed fairly happy with it. But as I mentioned, Tufin started growing like rapidly. And give me a second. So all of a sudden, we started out on the Toshiba system with like 50 users, then all of a sudden like 100. Then we went to the 200 model and 500, and then it was like enterprise. And now we're an enterprise customer with Toshiba. We're still small compared to some of the other customers, but like at least we have a dedicated customer success, et cetera. And then the labs were like lagging behind, because all of a sudden we had all these users who were logging on doing their courses, and we had a huge limitation in the amount of people that could actually go and use our software, like on the cloud. Okay, so the great thing with CloudShare is it's not just their cloud. You can also use Google Cloud. You can use Microsoft Azure. You're not like limited to which cloud system you're using. But until we went with CloudShare, we were limited, super limited to this previous company. And we started doing some research, and it didn't take long. There's not actually that many companies that do what CloudShare do. And logged on, went to CloudShare. We had a small demo with them. And they, we put some of our servers in, and as I mentioned, we do deal with multiple firewalls in our system. Yes, sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm being mindful of time, and we still want to be able to open up for the Q&A and unmute everyone.
Yeah.
Are you still?
Demos coming, yeah. So basically, we kind of needed a system which could be super scalable and able to like launch labs, quickly across multiple time zones, etc. So I am going to share my screen very short. Oh, I'm actually the presenter. Okay. Just give me 1 second.
No problem. So
okay. Yes.
For anyone,
1 second. Yeah.
No problem. So for everyone on the call, Viggy has I don't want to give you all the credit, but single-handedly developed the self-paced learning platform. So please do take advantage of all the experience that he's had, all of the tools that he's decided to use, and please ask any appropriate questions. Viggy's going to take us through the flow of what it looks like for a student using the LMS platform, and how he managed to take the seamless approach for learning modular learning, going through modular learning independently as a student, and how the hands-on experience is simply integrated into that. So there's no sort of confusion or training guidance with regards to how does somebody get hands-on with the actual software that they need to learn. It's all seamless in the LMS.
Yes, I'm just going to share my system very, very shortly. So yeah, let's just, unless you have any questions in the meantime, I'm going to quickly just show you our LMS system. Share my screen.
So
Okay,
for
so
anyone who
hopefully you can
hasn't,
also see, you can see my screen now. Yep.
I
Okay.
can. If anyone
So
can't,
yeah, this is just one of our many pages on the screen. And so literally 2 weeks ago, we launched a whole new certification program, which we're in the process of building. But so we released the first phase of our new certification program for our partners and customers. This is the first program that they have. Okay, so you mentioned gamification before, just loading this up right now. So obviously you have to rely on my slightly slow internet today for some.
and this is the live platform, right, Vicky?
Yeah, this is a live platform. As I mentioned, it was released 2 weeks ago. I will be brutally honest. You're watching. I don't want to disturb the live customers using the system, so I'm actually using my sandbox user. And so as you mentioned gamification, so here we see a badge. So once you've complete, and this is a learning plan, what they call in Toshiba or certification path. So there's 5 courses, and once you complete, you'll get your TCSE badge. And each one of these courses has its own kind of individual badges as well. So technically, if you look here, it's worth 10. So you could get up to like 100 points, which kind of convert into prizes and Amazon vouchers, etc. So this is the LMS system. So you have a few micro-learning videos here, which we've put together. And as I mentioned, this is new. So the main thing, in fact, the one thing which stayed from our previous certification program to this one was what I'm about to scroll down to, this section down here, which is the online labs. We had so much positive feedback about, wow, it's so great to use this system, not just use it, to actually do the exercises and not just play around with the system. You can actually use it how it's meant to be used. We have use case scenarios, multiple use case scenarios. So when you're going here, you also are this thing here on the lab, you have an exercise book, you have instructions, exactly what you should be doing when, and of course you have an exam as well, so they can be certified. And it's all based around this lab. So this is an iframe, and it points to a server on our CloudShare network. And as soon as I click this button, look what happens. This is basically the magic. Okay, so what's happening now is I'm creating a virtual environment, and I have an email invitation as well, plus I can just start it. So let's just start up this lab. And from our experience, and my experience of like almost 20 years in the training industry, what you're about to see, apart from my slow internet, which I apologize for, is basically a miracle. Like you're launching, you can't see here, but there's actually 3 machines being launched. There's the Tufin machine, there's a Windows machine, and also in the background, there's also a checkpoint firewall. So we don't really show that to customers and partners because first of all, we don't want to go into the firewall and mess things up with their exercises, but that there is an exercise there. I mean, they can't really do much with it, and we don't provide a password. But as I mentioned, you do have the Windows machine over here, and it's just the speed and the scale that you can do this. I'm one individual user. It's going to be the same for every user who logs onto the system. And of course, you have our box over here, which is a Unix system. And this is a basic environment, but I will say it doesn't matter whether we also offer like troubleshooting labs and distributed architecture labs, which could have up to 10 virtual machines in, and they all launch up like this. There's never question of like time, how long it takes. And this is real. This is not playing around on like a simulator. This is actually what happens in real life. So this is great for our customers who are all obviously cybersecurity related customers, and they're dealing with their firewalls. So they can't use their own systems because they're highly critical systems, and of course you don't want them like playing around with those. But it's great. They can log onto our LMS. They could start the course, do LMS, and I'm just going to quickly log on here. They can click on the Tufin UI button, and within a few seconds, they can get onto the login screen, which is right over here, and log in, which I'm about to do for the first time on this particular system. So the only time consuming thing will be just our software, but eventually it will log in, and they see the full working version of our software. And the most important thing here is for customers and partners, and also our internal employees, is that the fact they actually have access to a live, this is the checkpoint device over here, but not just that, they also have access to all the other devices, which they may be offline, but the actual metadata is there. So a lot of our exercises do go through all of our vendors, that we partner with. They can see that. We're not going to go into it too much, and perform exercises based on vendors. So I think you can all agree that was pretty astounding. And at the beginning we were like, we still are wowed by it, but this is the usual now. We can basically provide multiple different types of labs. I think we have about, if I'm not mistaken, about 40 or 45 blueprints, which are basically templates. And from there, depending on what the training session is, they can be launched in a matter of seconds across multiple areas of the world. And people can then go on and perform training. And we also use it for POCs. So our sales engineers go on, and if they need to do a quick demo, they can spin up a lab in a few seconds, and they can go on and show customers and partners, all about the system and what it does and how it can help them, etc. And of course, we use it internally quite largely in R&D. So if R&D, they're also time restricted, and they don't want to launch a VM or import into a VMware, whatever they need to import. They have a whole library of machines here which they can go up and quickly spin something up to troubleshoot or to test a feature out, etc. So yeah, that's basically how we're using CloudShare. And I think, as far as I know, Lee, that we're the only people that use this exact integration here, that we use the Toshiba LMS and CloudShare systems in one place. And it's such a simple integration. Literally, this is pointing to one machine, which has been up for 4 years, never gone down. And so I know Lee said, that we do have an address. If you need help, you can contact, I won't say the address because you put it all in an email list, but it's cloudlab@tufin.com. We've hardly get any emails from them because it just works. We don't have any issue with people saying my lab doesn't work. The labs do work. The only issues that they probably normally have is on an exam question or something which they don't agree with, which is fair enough. But normally the feedback is very, very rarely from a lab situation because it just works basically.
So what I want to make sure is just, clear as day, is the fact that what Viggy is doing is, and it's relatively repetitive, but I think it's really important. He's providing all of the relevant tools at the user's disposal to access as they see fit. And then when they are accessing that hands-on experience, it's a true replication of what they're going to be working in a production environment. So because it's a safe sandbox, there's no harm, no foul. Anything that a user does there is safe. It's worth experimenting there, even for users that are experienced, that want to just make sure, can something do that? How far can it bend before it breaks? This is a great way to empower these users to go ahead and test and play with your solution to make sure that they have a good grasp of how it works. And at the end of the day, that's the goal, I think, of every training leader, every training manager. You want to make sure that the people using your solution, your offering, is getting the most out of it, because that's always going to just, we're going to have more and more usage and potential expansion opportunities and endorse recommendations from those customers. I know we've gone a little bit further, but I would like to, and Richard, perhaps you can just keep us in check here if we can continue on this channel, if we need to go to that poster session, because I want to let everyone who wants to chime in, ask questions, to be able to do that now.
Well, yeah, I can drop off and go start the other session and tell them we'll be a couple minutes late. So you can spend just a couple more minutes answering questions if you'd like, but finish it quickly.
Oh, no problem at all.
I can answer one for you, Lee, if you want. I can answer the last one, which I see here. From
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So how are you maintaining all of your lab blueprints so that they're up to date with your latest product releases? Okay, so I can show you the back end very briefly. Hold on, let me have a quick look. I'll just drag on. So this is what it looks like on the. This is CloudShare from the admin side, okay, not the customer side. Okay, so what we see here, so these are the boxes which we saw. This is the checkpoint, and this is us and the Windows machine. So currently, this is the software running, and basically today, actually, we released 22. Okay, a release candidate. So what I'll do, I'll log on to the external address here.